I found them in the security office at Logan International Airport, sitting on plastic chairs that were too big for their legs, wearing matching purple backpacks that looked like they'd been packed by someone who had never packed a child's bag before. Sadie held her sister's hand so tightly their knuckles were white. Quinn stared at the floor like she was counting the tiles, or maybe counting the minutes until her mother came back. Except her mother wasn't coming back. I knew that before I sat down next to them, before I said a single word. I knew it the way you know the weather changed when you feel it in your bones. The security officer handed me a folded piece of notebook paper. Brittany's handwriting, loopy, performative, the same cursive she used for her Instagram captions and her thank you notes and every other thing she'd ever written that was meant to be seen. Please ensure these children are picked up by Faith Harper. She is the aunt and authorized caregiver. Thank you for your assistance. No signature. No phone number. No apology. I looked at the girls and thought about the 71 days I had left before Seattle. I thought about the acceptance letter on my fridge, the one I'd framed because it was the first thing I'd ever done that wasn't for someone else. I thought about the condo I'd bought with my own money, the car I'd paid off, the life I'd built brick by brick while my sister built castles out of sand and followers. Quinn finally looked up at me. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. She'd already cried all the tears she had. "Mommy said you were coming," she whispered. "She said you were coming and we should wait." I nodded because I didn't trust my voice. I picked up Sadie's backpack, too heavy, packed for an emergency that someone had decided I would handle, and took Quinn's hand. She didn't pull away. Neither of them did. That was the worst part. They were so used to being handed off that they didn't even resist anymore. The cab ride cost $87. I had $42 in my wallet. I used my credit card and told myself I'd figure it out later, the way I always told myself I'd figure it out later when Brittany left something broken in her wake. My phone buzzed at 5:52 a.m. Brittany's text, "You should be taking care of the kids anyway. You're better at it." Attached was a photo of Sadie and Quinn sitting at the departure gate with their purple backpacks, no adult in sight, no context, no explanation. She'd taken the photo before she left them there. She documented the moment she abandoned her own children. Like it was content. Like it was something to monetize. I'd been scheduled to fly to Miami that morning. Family trip, Brittany had called it. All 6 of us. She'd booked the tickets, handled everything, told me to just show up at the airport 3 hours early because she knew how I was about being late. I'd arrived at Logan at 4:30 a.m., coffee in hand, excited for the first vacation I'd taken in 3 years. The check-in counter was where it all fell apart. The woman behind the desk typed something, frowned, typed again, and then looked at me with the kind of pity you only see when someone is about to deliver news that will change everything. "Your ticket has been cancelled, Ms. Harper." "Excuse me?" "The booking holder cancelled it yesterday afternoon." She turned her screen toward me. I saw Brittany's name. I saw the cancellation timestamp. 2:47 p.m. While I was working a double shift at the hospital, while I was elbow deep in someone else's emergency, my sister had been erasing me from her plans. "They've already boarded," the woman said gently. "Your family. They boarded an hour ago." I called Brittany 7 times. Each one went straight to voicemail. Her voicemail message was the same one she'd had for years, a breathy, sing-song recording that made her sound like she was always about to laugh at a private joke. "Hey babe, you know what to do." I left messages. I don't remember what I said. I was too busy trying to understand what was happening. The airport police found me wandering near the security checkpoint. They'd been looking for me, they said. There had been an incident. 2 unaccompanied minors had been found at gate B17. They had a note. They had my name. Security office. Plastic chairs. Purple backpacks. The smell of stale coffee and the sound of Sadie's sniffles. My phone buzzed again while I was waiting for the cab. This time it was my mother. Faith, where are you? We're on the plane. Brittany said you decided to stay back with the girls. She said you volunteered. I closed my eyes. I could picture my mother in her seat, probably in first class because Brittany always booked first class and told me she got a deal, arranging her scarf, checking her lipstick. She'd have believed Brittany without question. She always did. Mom, I said carefully, I didn't volunteer for anything. The girls were left at the gate. Alone. With a note. That doesn't sound like Brittany, my mother said. And then, because she had never once in my entire life considered the possibility that her firstborn could be anything other than perfect, there must be some kind of mistake. I didn't answer. I just watched the girls climb into the cab and listened to my mother's voice fade into the background static of everything I'd been trying to escape. The first night in my condo, Quinn couldn't sleep. She lay in the guest room bed, rigid as a corpse, her eyes wide open in the darkness. I stood in the doorway for an hour, watching her not sleep, trying to remember what it felt like to be 7 and so afraid that closing your eyes felt like a surrender. I turned on the hallway light. She relaxed slightly. I moved her bed closer to Sadie's, so the edges touched. She let out a breath I hadn't realized she'd been holding. Sadie, who had been asleep for hours, rolled over and reached for her sister's hand without opening her eyes. I'm here, Quinn whispered. I'm here. 71 days. The countdown lived in my phone, in my head, in the framed acceptance letter on my fridge. The University of Washington's nurse practitioner program. I'd applied 3 times before they accepted me. The first time, I'd been in the middle of Brittany's wedding and couldn't finish the application. The second time, I'd been taking care of our mother after her hip surgery because Brittany was too busy with a sponsored trip to Mexico. The third time, I'd finally told no one, submitted everything in secret, and waited 4 months for the letter that would change my life. When it came, I'd cried in my kitchen. I'd held the envelope like it was made of gold and whispered, "You did this. You did this by yourself." But I wasn't by myself anymore. I was a 34-year-old pediatric nurse with a 10-year-old Honda and a 2-bedroom condo and 2 7-year-old girls sleeping in my guest room with their beds pushed together and the hallway light burning. The morning after the airport, I called the hospital to explain. My supervisor, Martha, had been a nurse for 40 years. She'd seen everything. She didn't ask questions, just told me to take whatever time I needed and call her when I'd figured things out. That was code, I knew. Take as much time as you need, but I can't guarantee your position will be here when you get back. I took it anyway. What else could I do? I spent the first 3 days in a fog of practicalities. The girls needed clothes, so I went to Target and bought everything in purple because that was the color they'd chosen and I didn't have the strength to fight it. They needed food, so I stocked the fridge with things I hoped 7-year-olds ate: chicken nuggets, apple slices, yogurt tubes. They needed school, so I called the private school Brittany had enrolled them in and learned that tuition hadn't been paid since February. The account is frozen, the administrator said delicately. We've been trying to reach Mrs. Hale for months. I thought about the final notices I'd found in Brittany's kitchen, mortgage warnings, credit card bills with numbers that made my stomach drop. I thought about the $180,000 our mother had wired in 2 installments at Brittany's urging, the money that was supposed to be an investment but was probably just another hole in the sand. You should be taking care of the kids anyway. Brittany's voice echoed in my head. You're better at it. I was better at it because I'd been practicing my whole life. I'd been taking care of things since I was 7 years old and my mother started brushing Brittany's hair on the front porch, right in front of the neighbors, telling everyone who walked by about her beautiful daughter. That was the year I became the one who was brushed inside, at the kitchen table, with the door closed. Brittany was the show. I was the stage crew. The doctor's daughter and the nurse. The beauty queen and the workhorse. The one who got the house and the husband and the 200,000 Instagram followers, and the one who got the degree she had to earn 3 times over. The irony was that our roles had been assigned so long ago I'd stopped questioning them. When our mother's hip needed surgery, Brittany was too busy. When the mortgage needed co-signing, I was the one who signed. When someone needed to be the steady one, the reliable one, the one who showed up and figured it out, I'd been called. I'd just never expected to be called for this. On day 6, Maya Alvarado arrived at my door. She was a small woman with tired eyes and a badge that read Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. She held a folder that was probably thicker than my entire life history and smiled at me like she was about to apologize for something she hadn't done. "Ms. Harper, I'm sorry to intrude. We received a report from the airport police. Unaccompanied minors, abandoned at a gate. We need to talk about the children." I let her in. I made coffee I didn't drink. We sat at my kitchen table while the girls watched cartoons in the living room, oblivious to the woman who held their future in a manila folder. "The airport police have triggered a file," Maya explained. "Abandonment. We've attempted to contact the parents, but Mrs. Hale's phone is disconnected and Mr. Hale hasn't been reached at any known number. The home in Weston is vacant, we've confirmed." She paused. She was good at pauses, I could tell. She let the weight of her words settle before she added more. "We need to determine a placement plan. You're the current caregiver, but we need to assess fitness, stability, the relationship with the children. There will be a background check, home visits, a hearing. Emergency guardianship will be in place for now, but if the parents can't be located, we're looking at kinship placement, meaning you." I nodded. I'd known this was coming. I'd been preparing for it the way I prepared for every crisis, by pretending it wasn't happening while quietly making lists of everything I'd need to handle it. "Keep records of everything," Maya advised. "Every phone call, every text message, every expense. This is going to be a process, and you're going to want documentation." I started a notebook that afternoon. I'd used 1,000 notebooks before, patient charts, shift notes, grocery lists, but this one was different. This was evidence. This was armor. I wrote everything. The date of the airport. Brittany's text at 5:52 a.m. The photo she'd sent. The note the security officer handed me. The cost of the cab. The days the girls asked if their mother was coming back. Quinn asked less often than Sadie. Quinn had already stopped asking by day 3. Sadie kept asking every night at dinner, her small voice hopeful. "Mommy said she'd call when she got to Florida. When do you think she'll call?" I didn't know what to say. I couldn't lie, but I couldn't tell her the truth either. So I said, "I don't know, sweetheart. I really don't know." Sadie nodded like this was acceptable. She'd learned to accept a lot of things. The day I went to Brittany's house, I left the girls with my neighbor Gloria, a retired teacher who lived in the unit next door. I'd never asked Gloria for anything before, but she took one look at the girls and said, "Go. Take as long as you need." The house was in Weston, an affluent suburb that didn't look like it belonged to the same state as my condo in Roxbury. The drive alone took 40 minutes. I spent it on the phone with Ruth, the legal aid lawyer Maya had recommended. "Your sister's husband, Derek Hale," Ruth said carefully, "his company is under investigation. Hale Coastal Partners. The FBI has been looking into it for months. I'm not surprised the house is empty." I remembered Derek. I remembered the way he laughed when I asked for audited financial statements, called me the family actuary, like fiscal responsibility was a joke. I remembered the way Brittany looked at him, like he was the prize she'd won for being beautiful and good. The house was a sandcastle at high tide. The master closet was half empty, the expensive clothes gone, the designer shoes taken, the jewelry box cleaned out. Derek's side of the closet was completely bare, like he'd never existed there at all. The safe in the bedroom was open and empty. I could see where the lock had been scratched, but I knew it had been opened properly. Derek had the combination. Derek always had the combination. The girls' room was untouched. Beds made. Toothbrushes still in a cup on the sink. A pink hairbow on the dresser that Quinn had left behind. Sadie's stuffed rabbit, tucked under her pillow like someone had put it there for safekeeping. Every adult thing was packed and spirited away. The children did not make the manifest. I sat on Sadie's bed and looked at the room and thought about the countdown in my phone. 65 days now. 65 days until Seattle, until the life I'd built for myself, until the escape from this family and its endless demands. Except I wasn't escaping. I was sitting in a children's bedroom in a foreclosed house, looking at a pink hairbow and wondering what I'd done to deserve this. I found the stack of final notices in the office. Mortgage warnings, credit card balances, a county notice dated 2 weeks before the trip. Brittany and Derek had known this was coming. They'd known the house was going to be taken, the accounts were going to be frozen, the whole beautiful lie was about to collapse. They'd left the girls with me and run. That was the part one couldn't process. They hadn't taken the children with them. They'd packed their valuables and fled, and they'd left their daughters at an airport gate with a note and a purple backpack. I took the clothes. I took the toothbrushes. I took the stuffed rabbit from under Sadie's pillow and the hairbow from the dresser. I left everything else, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. My mother returned from the family trip 3 days later. I bought her ticket myself, the cheapest one I could find, because that was all I could afford. She'd been in Florida with Brittany and Derek, 3 days of arguing through a locked hotel room door, 3 days of trying to figure out what had happened. They told me you volunteered, she said at my kitchen table. They told me you wanted to stay back with the girls. That you insisted. I laid out the evidence. The text at 5:52 a.m. The photo. The note. The cancellation of my ticket. The empty house. The financial notices. I watched her face go from confusion to denial to the slow, dawning horror of someone who realizes they've been played. She panicked, my mother said finally. People do terrible things when they panic. Besides, you're good at this. You've always been the strong one. I looked at her across the table. 71 days had become 61. I'd spent my entire life being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who showed up and figured it out. I'd spent my entire life being the daughter who was brushed inside while Brittany was brushed on the porch. I'd never asked my mother why. I'd never asked why I was the one who had to be steady, why I was the one who had to be easy, why I was the one who could be trusted not to fall apart. You should be taking care of the kids anyway. Brittany's text. My mother's words. Everyone had always known exactly what I was for. Mom, I need to tell you something, I said. The house. In Quincy. You need to know. She looked at me. And for the first time in my life, I saw something behind her eyes. Not confusion, not denial. Fear. Brittany said she needed help, I continued. She said she was making an investment. $180,000. Against the house. She told you not to tell me because I'd worry it to death. My mother's face went pale. How do you know that? I found the documents. In the office. The wire transfer records. She used your account. She said it was a short-term loan, my mother whispered. She said it was guaranteed. She said. She lied, I said flatly. She's been lying to everyone. The house is gone, Mom. There's no way to get it back. I watched my mother process this. I watched the truth settle over her like a coat that didn't fit, something she'd never expected to wear. I was just trying to help her, she said. She's my daughter. We're your daughters, I said. Both of us. But I don't think you've ever really seen me. She didn't answer. She sat at my kitchen table with her hands in her lap and stared at the floor, And I thought about the year I'd spent brushing my own hair at the kitchen table while she brushed Brittany's on the porch, in front of everyone, like a performance. I thought about the day I stopped waiting for her to come inside and brush mine instead. I'd been 8 years old. I'd figured it out myself. I established a new routine in July. Day shifts at the hospital, packed lunches, a summer program for the girls that cost more than I could afford but that I paid for anyway. I called Ruth every week. I logged every expense in my notebook. I waited for the hearing. Quinn hadn't spoken since the airport, except for one word at a time. She'd whisper yes or no or okay. She'd stopped asking about her mother entirely. She'd stopped talking at all. Then one afternoon, a neighbor's cat wandered onto my patio. Quinn sat down next to it, cross-legged, and said, very clearly, "We live here now." I was in the kitchen. I heard her voice, clear and calm, and I dropped the dish towel I was holding and leaned against the counter. I cried into the sink with the water running, because I didn't want her to hear me and I didn't have anywhere else to hide. I'd spent 34 years being the strong one. I'd spent 34 years taking care of everyone else and pretending it didn't hurt. And here was this 7-year-old girl, abandoned by her mother at an airport, settling into a new life like it was the only option she had. Because for her, it was. I thought about the countdown. 45 days now. 45 days until Seattle. I looked at my phone. I looked at the framed acceptance letter on my fridge. And I realized, for the first time, that I didn't know what I was going to do. The temporary guardianship hearing lasted 19 minutes. 19 minutes to decide the rest of my life. The judge was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked at the file, looked at me, looked at the girls sitting in the back of the courtroom with my neighbor Gloria. "Ms. Harper, do you understand that this may not be temporary? That you may be looking at a long-term commitment here?" I looked at the girls. Sadie was holding Gloria's hand. Quinn was staring at the floor, counting tiles the way she always did when she was scared. "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "I understand." I didn't confirm my seat in the Seattle program. I also didn't decline it. I just let it sit there, like the purple backpack by my front door, waiting for a decision that never seemed to come. The judge granted the guardianship. She gave me a list of requirements: home visits, therapy, reunification attempts with the parents, if they could be located. She told me to keep records. I already had. Federal agents arrived at my door in July. 2 of them. Agent Whitfield and his partner, a woman whose name I don't remember because she didn't speak the entire time. Whitfield showed me his badge and asked if I had time to talk. "About what?" I asked. The girls were at summer camp. I had the day off. I didn't have any excuse not to let them in. "About Derek Hale," Whitfield said. "His company. Hale Coastal Partners. We understand you're the guardian of his children. We'd like to ask you a few questions." I made coffee I didn't drink. I answered their questions. They asked about Derek's business, his money, his connections. They asked if anyone else in the family had invested. I told them about my mother. The $180,000 against the house in Quincy, wired in 2 installments at Brittany's urging. I told them about the final notices I'd found in the office, the empty safe, the house at high tide. "Your sister was a signer," Whitfield said. "On several accounts. Did you know that?" I shook my head. "She said she didn't handle the finances. She said Derek did everything." "Your sister lied," Whitfield said flatly. "She was an authorized signer on the account that paid the twins' private school. She signed documents for the business. She was not the ignorant wife she pretended to be." I thought about all the times Brittany had told me she couldn't help with money because Derek handled it. All the times she'd said she didn't understand the accounts, didn't understand the investments, didn't understand anything. She'd played dumb, and I'd believed her. I'd believed her my whole life. Everyone had. "We're building a case," Whitfield said. "Fraud, money laundering, possibly more. We'll need to talk to you again. And we'll need to talk to your mother." He left a card on my kitchen table. I stared at it for a long time after he left. I thought about my mother's house in Quincy, the one she'd been paying off for 30 years, the one that was now gone. I thought about the girls' purple backpacks by the front door. On July 31st, I withdrew from the Seattle program. I did it in writing. I typed the letter, printed it out, and mailed it. I didn't call. I didn't explain. I just said I was unable to accept the position, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience, and thank you for the opportunity. I lost the deposit. $4,000. I could have used that money for 100 other things, but I told myself it was the price of a life I'd never get back. The acceptance letter came off the fridge. A back-to-school checklist went up in its place. The purple backpack was still by the front door. But for the first time, it didn't look like it was waiting to leave. It looked like it was guarding something. Protecting something. Keeping something safe. September brought the indictment. Derek was charged with wire fraud and money laundering. Brittany was charged as a promoter and authorized signer. The news hit the papers, the local websites, the social media feeds. I sat on my couch and read the article 3 times. The names were there: Hale Coastal Partners, the fraud, the victims, the money that had been taken from people who trusted them. I thought about my mother's house. I thought about the other investors, the other families, the other lives destroyed. Brittany's Instagram went dark. The account that had defined her for years, the 200,000 followers who'd watched her curated life, the carefully staged photos, the filtered versions of reality. All gone. She called me in October. It was the first time I'd heard her voice since the airport. "Faith, I need you to help me." Her voice was different, not breathy, not performative. Tired. Desperate. "I need $4,000. I can't be seen begging." "Can't be seen begging," I repeated. "Where are you?" "I can't tell you that. Just send the money. I'll pay you back, I promise." I remembered the final notices in her office. The empty safe. The flight that was supposed to be to Florida but was actually somewhere else. "I can't," I said. "You have to. You're the only one who can. You left them at an airport, Brittany. With a note. You left your children." Silence. "Then, I did what I had to do." "Then you can live with what you have to do now," I said. "Don't call this number again." I forwarded the call to Ruth. I logged it in my notebook. I had no idea where my sister was, and I didn't want to know. But for the first time in 34 years, I wasn't orbiting her anymore. I'd broken out of the gravity well she'd put me in, the one that made me revolve around her wants, her needs, her emergencies. I was my own planet now. Derek was detained on a Caribbean island in October, trying to renew a visa with a federal warrant in the system. He'd been running for months, hopping from country to country, always one step ahead. Except he'd forgotten to check the warrant status. He was arrested at an embassy. I read about it online. Brittany went quiet. Fully quiet for the first time in her life. Her own lawyers couldn't reach her for 3 weeks. She'd disappeared the way Derek had disappeared, into the space where people go when they don't want to be found. I didn't look for her. I had other things to do. In November, Quinn drew a picture for show and tell at school. Her teacher emailed it to me, a scan of a crayon drawing on construction paper. There was a stick figure with a stethoscope, a stick figure with pigtails, a stick figure with a purple backpack. Below them, the words, "This is my aunt. She fixes kids at night. We live at her house." I printed it out. I put it on the fridge at kid height, right next to the back-to-school checklist. Sadie still repacked her purple backpack every Sunday night. pajamas, toothbrush, stuffed rabbit, juice box. She'd been doing it for months, ever since the airport. Every week, like clockwork. She kept it by the front door, ready for something that might never come. Except in November, I noticed something different. The backpack was still there, but it was no longer packed. Sadie had stopped repacking it. She'd stopped mentioning her mother entirely. December brought the permanency hearing. Ruth and I sat in the small courtroom. The judge was the same woman as before. She looked at the file, looked at me, looked at the girls. "The state is recommending a change in case goal," she said. "Permanency. Termination of parental rights, then adoption. The parents have not been located, have not made meaningful attempts at contact, and have not demonstrated any ability to provide a safe home." I looked at my lawyer. Ruth nodded. "We'll pursue it," I said. Brittany's objection letter arrived in January. It was written on legal paper, notarized and formal. It claimed she'd never abandoned her children, that the airport was a misunderstanding, that I'd coerced her into leaving them with me. It was the same performance, the same lies, the same refusal to take responsibility. But the letter proved something else. It proved she knew where her daughters were. It proved she'd been aware of the case. It proved she'd chosen not to return. She'd had 8 months. 8 months to come back, to fight, to be a mother. She'd spent them hiding and blaming everyone else. The letter was the rope she hung herself with. I signed the petition. I didn't hesitate. February brought Brittany back to Boston. She landed at Logan, surrendered by arrangement, was released with an ankle monitor and travel restrictions. She called me the day she arrived. "I need to see the girls." "There's a process," I said. "You need to go through the court. You need to make a request." "I don't want to go through the court. I just want to see my daughters." "You left them at an airport," I said. "With a note. You ran away. You disappeared for 8 months. You don't get to just show up and demand to see them." I hung up. I forwarded the call to Ruth. The next week, she showed up at my door. It was a Sunday afternoon. The girls were at my mother's apartment. She'd moved into a small place 2 miles from me, a 1-bedroom with a kitchen that barely fit a table. She'd sold the Quincy house, what was left of it, and used the money to start over. She came for dinner every Tuesday. She was learning the bus schedule at 65, learning how to praise the girls without straightening their collars first. She was learning to be a mother to the daughter she'd never really seen. I'd told her about the letter. About Brittany's objection, about how it proved everything. She'd nodded like she'd expected it. "I saw you, Faith," she'd said one night, looking out my kitchen window. "All those years. I just thought easy meant fine." I should have said it out loud. I'm saying it now. I hadn't known what to do with that. I still didn't. Then Brittany showed up at my door. She was thinner than I'd ever seen her. No makeup, no designer clothes, no Instagram perfect hair. Just my sister, looking at me from behind a pair of tired eyes and a heart that had finally stopped performing. "I want to make a deal," she said. She sat at my kitchen table. I didn't offer her coffee. I didn't offer her anything. "Here's what I'm offering," she said, sliding a document across the table. "I'll sign consent for adoption. Full consent. No contest. You get the girls permanently, you get everything you want. In exchange, you tell the prosecutor the airport was a misunderstanding. Just tell them I meant to come back. That I had an emergency. That I left them with you because I knew they were safe. Then you let me have supervised visits. A few afternoons a month. I need photos, Faith. I need to show the judge I'm a mother." I read the document. It was typed, notarized, ready to go. One signature away from everything I'd been fighting for. "Everything I want," I said slowly. One signature away. That's right. She smiled, her old smile, the one she used for the camera. You want the girls. I want my life back. We can both win. I looked at the tabs. I looked at the document. I thought about the airport, the text at 5:52 a.m., the photo of the girls sitting alone at the gate. I thought about the 8 months I'd spent pretending I wasn't drowning, the countdown I'd abandoned, the life I'd given up. One signature. That was all it would take. Who gets hurt? I asked myself. She'd lose the girls, but she'd already lost them. She'd already left them. And the girls would get a permanent home, a stable family, everything they needed. It was the easy path. The simple path. The one I'd been trained to take my whole life. But I thought about the purple backpack. About Quinn's sentence, "We live here now." About Sadie unpacking the backpack for the last time, folding it flat like a flag, putting it on the shelf. Done. I thought about the note at the airport. Please ensure these children are picked up by Faith Harper. She'd named me. She'd assigned me. She'd decided, without asking, that I would be the one to clean up her mess. If I took this deal, I'd be signing off on the lie. I'd be telling the court that what she did was okay. That leaving your children at an airport gate with a note and running away was just a misunderstanding. That she was really a good mother, a safe mother, someone who deserved to be in their lives. The truth was the only thing Brittany had never managed to pack, sell, or stage. It was the only thing she couldn't spin, couldn't filter, couldn't monetize. The girls had already been left at a gate by that lesson. I would not enroll them in it twice. No, I said. Brittany stared at me. What? No. I won't lie for you. I won't make this easy. You can fight me, or you can walk away. But I'm not going to sign something that tells the world what you did was okay. You're ruining my life, she said. You're taking my daughters and ruining my life. Your daughters are at Mom's house, I said. They're fine. They've been fine. They haven't asked about you in months. I didn't say it to be cruel. I said it because it was true. Brittany's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw the sister I'd grown up with, the one who'd cried when I fell off my bike, the one who'd defended me in middle school when the other kids teased me, the one who'd loved me once. Then the door opened, and the girls came in. They'd come back with my mother. They walked through the door, saw Brittany, and stopped. Neither of them moved toward her. Sadie took my hand. Is she staying for dinner? She asked, her voice careful, like she was asking about the weather. Quinn stepped forward. She looked at her mother, her biological mother, the woman who'd left her at an airport, and said, calmly, "This is Aunt Faith's house." Brittany looked at the girls. She looked at the purple backpack by the door, the one that had been waiting for her for 8 months, the one that had finally been put away. She understood then. I could see it in her eyes. A child had packed a bag for her every Sunday night, had kept it by the door, had waited. And now that child was holding my hand, standing in my kitchen, telling her mother this was someone else's house. Brittany walked past the backpack without looking down. She left the consent form on the table. She walked out my door without saying goodbye. I watched her go. I thought about the countdown in my phone, the one I'd never turned off. 0 days. I'd missed the deadline. And I didn't care. I told the prosecutor the truth. Every detail. The airport, the text, the note, the empty house, the final notices, the consent form at my kitchen table. I told them everything. In April, Derek pleaded guilty. 9 years. In May, Brittany took a plea. 30 months, restitution. She was sentenced in a courtroom full of people I didn't know. I sat in the back with my mother and watched my sister be led away in handcuffs. She didn't look at me. I didn't blame her. The termination hearing came in June. It was almost exactly 1 year from the day I'd picked the girls up at Logan. 1 year since the airport, 1 year since the text, 1 year since my life had been turned upside down. The record was stacked. The airport report, the note, the photo, the abandonment finding, the objection letter, a year of my Tuesdays. Brittany didn't contest it. She didn't fight it. She just accepted it. Parental rights were terminated. The judge looked at me from behind her reading glasses. Miss Harper, you've done something remarkable here. You've provided stability and care for 2 children who were abandoned. You've given them a home. The court appreciates your dedication. I nodded. I didn't know what to say. The girls were in the back of the courtroom with Gloria. Sadie was waving at me. Quinn was staring at the floor, counting tiles. But when the judge banged the gavel, Quinn looked up. She looked at me. She smiled. That was enough. My mother sold the Quincy house, what was left of it, and moved into a small apartment 2 miles from us. She learned the bus schedule at 65. She came for dinner every Tuesday, learning how to praise the girls without straightening their collars first. One night, she stood at my kitchen window and said, "I saw you, Faith. All those years. I just thought easy meant fine." I should have said it out loud. I'm saying it now. I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. I just let her stand there. Brittany wrote from the facility in Connecticut. The letters were always the same, breezy, performative, like captions that had lost their photos. She never asked what the girls ate for breakfast. She never asked about their schoolwork or their friends or their dreams. I answered with school pictures and short weather reports. I didn't offer anything else. The adoption was finalized on a Thursday morning in a small courtroom. The judge let Sadie bang the gavel. Quinn said, "We already live there." The night before, I'd watched Sadie unpack the purple backpack. She took out the pajamas. She stood the rabbit on the pillow. She dropped the juice box in the recycling. She folded the empty backpack flat, like a flag, and put it on the closet shelf. Done. "What's for dinner?" she asked. I said tacos. That was the entire ceremony. Today, on my refrigerator at kid height, there is a new school photo. Crooked collar. Missing tooth. Mid-laugh, because the photographer sneezed. Held up by tape and a lighthouse magnet. Nobody filtered it. Nobody staged it. Nobody monetized it. It is, by every metric my sister ever lived by, a terrible photo. It is my favorite thing I own. I spent 34 years believing love was a bill that came due every month. That you had to earn it, prove it, perform for it. That it was given to the people who were easiest to love, the people who sparkled and smiled and made everything look effortless. It took 2 7-year-olds and 1 purple backpack to teach me what my sister's 200,000 followers never could. The love that saves you is never the kind that performs. It's the kind that shows up on a Tuesday. Sets the table. Checks the homework. Leaves the hallway light on. And stays. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if the girls will understand, someday, why their mother left them. I don't know if I'll ever forgive my mother for not seeing me. I don't know if I'll ever stop wondering what my life would have looked like if I'd gotten on that plane to Seattle. But I know what I have now. I know what I chose. And every Sunday night, I think about the purple backpack on the closet shelf, folded flat like a flag, put away for good. It's done. We're done. And for the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for anyone to come inside and brush my hair. I'm already here. I'm already home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Hushed Life Stories for more powerful and emotional narratives.